So I brought the brochure about Chungtai Monastery, the one that we saw the video of, one of the huge monasteries in Taiwan that has 800 monastics. And so, as I had mentioned to you before, one of the things I was thinking about when I was in Taiwan was what's the difference in training in a large monastery where you have, let's say, even 100 people, let alone 800, versus the training in a smaller monastery, let's say, where you have 25 or 30 and under. So, it seems to me it's going to be a different kind of training. So that's one thing I was thinking about. You can think about that too, and of what are the pros and cons of each. Because when you have a large monastery, there's many more things you can do, because there's many more people there. And another thing that I was thinking about after reading many of the papers at the Conference on Sangha Education was the type of education Sangha needs, because many of the people in the Chinese and Vietnamese tradition were really advocating that monastics go back and get some secular education, because Buddhism has been part of their culture for many, many centuries, and the Buddhists, often were where the temples were where the education happened. But then with colonialization and modern advancement, then there began to be secular schools. So this affected the role of the temples. And then the monastics had this whole other field of knowledge that they didn't know anything about, and there was modern technology and everything like that. And so how do you use that to spread the Dharma? And do you need that? So I saw in some of the places in Asia, they're sending their students, let's say, to learn about accounting, because nowadays you have to know accounting to keep your temple books, because the government looks at it because you're a charity. Or you have to send somebody to learn computer, or to learn website design, or to learn auto maintenance, or to learn forestry, or to learn all these other things, because nowadays the monasteries need these kinds of skills. Okay, so that's a real adjustment for some of the temples in Asia. At the early part of last century in Vietnam and China, there was a lot of transformation because of Tai Tzu. He was one Chinese monastic who was very far-sighted and really said, we have to have humanistic Buddhism that talks about benefiting people also in this life. And so at that point, people started getting more of a liberal arts education, learning more about history and these, more writing skills and so on. But now in our age, it's a thing of actually learning different vocational skills. Okay, and so how much do monastics need to go and do that, and what is the result of monastics doing that? And I was thinking, in terms of the West, most people who come to the Abbey have some skills already. They've graduated from high school. Many people have college education. Many of you have worked before and have had jobs and careers and professions. So you don't need to go back to school to learn something, because you bring those skills with you. Yeah. And we have construction skills and foresting skills. And this morning we had Rachel teaching people all sorts of things, so it's like having a class. So I'm thinking that it's a different situation here, because we grew up with a secular education, and now as monastics we're seeking a monastic education, because we really want to learn to transform our minds. And also, my philosophy is to have, you have to preserve the temple, the monastery, in order to practice. But aside from that, let's not get into preserving an institution for the sake of preserving an institution, okay? In other words, let's do as little of that kind of stuff as possible and devote our time more to Dharma stuff, you know. Whereas I think sometimes in Asia, because the institutions have been there for so long and they're so huge, you have to put a lot of time and energy just into preserving them. So you have huge administrative structures, you know, with bosses and managers and employees, everybody, I mean, not employees who get paid, but they're, you know, huge structure, huge administrative structures, because you have huge monasteries and huge numbers of Sangha. You know, in Thailand they have the Sangha Raj, you know, the leader of all the Sangha. So imagine, you know, trying to keep track of, you know, thousands and thousands of monastics, and then, you know, you have all sorts of different stuff going on. So, you know, because Buddhism is new here, we have a minimum of that kind of stuff. Yeah, but it's something that we have to think about in the future, and creating institutions and how to do it so that we don't spend a lot of time that could be spent on Dharma just preserving an institution for the sake of preserving it.